Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Churen, and welcome to our show. So guys, it was definitely an up and down week for our Yas, playing over in Europe. We had, some players who made their first team debut, also, some players that won awards within U.S. soccer. And then we also had some unfortunate injuries and just some disappointing performances. So a lot to get to today. So let's get right to it. So the first player we want to talk about today is Weston McKennie. So Weston started again at center back for Schalke. They were going up against Eintracht Frankfurt in this game. And it was sure to be a good clash. Frankfurt's a good team. They play in the Europa League this year, so it was looking to be a very good contest going in. But unfortunately, 13 minutes into the game, Weston McKennie had to come off due to a shoulder injury. So basically, how it happened was there was a goal kick from Frankfurt. Weston, went up to battle for a header up against Bas Dost, who is Eintracht Frankfurt's, pretty big striker. I believe he's like 6'3", 6'4". And basically when he was going up for that header, kind of got pushed off balance by him and also another Schalke player that went up. And Weston ended up falling down on his left arm, and it looked like he basically dislocated his shoulder. So it was, in the game, it was definitely a moment of concern. Weston stayed down for a good 10 seconds after the header happened and play resumed. And then finally, the referee called play to a stop, and the Schalke training staff came out, and you could see kind of on Weston's face, he wasn't, distressed, but he was definitely like, something's wrong. Like, I need people to take a look at it. He wasn't, in agony, I would say, but he was definitely like, all right, this isn't just a regular strain. This was something serious. So, Weston, like I said, ended up coming off in the 13th minute of this game, actually got stretchered off, and we later found out that he was taken to the hospital. And I guess he was taken to the hospital kind of as a precaution, but it also sounded like there was the potential that he could have gotten his shoulder operated on. I'm not exactly sure, what kind of dislocation would require that, but it does sound like he never ended up having surgery on this dislocation. So I guess that's kind of a blessing in disguise. We don't really know too much about it yet. To my knowledge, Schalke haven't put out kind of a injury update for him. So if we do find out anything, we'll make sure to get that to you on Twitter or Instagram. But so, disappointing. You never want to see any player get injured, but definitely not, a key USMNT star like Weston McKennie. Definitely don't want to see, that happen to him. So, disappointing. A lot of USMNT players are out right now at the moment with injury. You got Tyler Adams. Tim Weah is currently out. Jonathan Amon, another one who's been struggling with injuries pretty much all year. So, add Weston, I guess, to that list for the foreseeable future. At the moment, from what we've heard, it sounds like it's just a dislocation. So, winter break's coming up for the Bundesliga. They'll be off until about mid-January, mid to late January. So, it should be enough time for Weston to, rehab that shoulder, and kind of, nurse it back to full strength. And then hopefully, once that late January game comes around, he can kind of just get back onto the pitch and, be at his full strength. But, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's an injury that, is more than meets the eye and, ends up keeping him out longer. But, here's to hoping that's not the case. And, we can see him back on the pitch. He was playing at center back recently just because of Schalke's kind of injury crisis at center back. So, hopefully those those center backs who are currently injured can rest up, and then like I said, Weston can rest up and kind of be back to his normal position in the 2020 part of the season. So yeah, the one good thing too, I guess, for USMNT injury sake is that it looks like Tyler Adams will be back either this game, which Leipzig play Dortmund on Tuesday of this week. So they'll probably have already played after we upload this, but they also play again this weekend. So it sounded like from head coach Julian Nagelsmann that Tyler would be back for one of those two games, if not maybe both. So one USMNT player goes off with injury, and hopefully another one comes back. So disappointing, but rest up, Weston, and just take your time and return stronger in 2020. So now going over to England, we want to talk about our main man, and that would be Christian Pulisic. So Christian, I guess midweek we should start with. He played 62 minutes for Chelsea, and that was in their 2-1 win over Lille in the Champions League. So, this was a really good game from Christian. Was really dynamic and just did a great job setting up his Chelsea teammates in this game. I believe he created 3 chances in the game, which is pretty good in 60 minutes. That's pretty good, and also completed 7 of his 11 dribbles. So definitely a game where Christian was feeling it, and I saw the highlights of the game, and he was definitely one of the better players on the pitch, not just for Chelsea, but just the pitch in general. Was one of the best players on the field. So definitely encouraging. And it was, even more imperative because Chelsea had to win this game to advance to the knockout rounds of the Champions League. So, he was able to help them take care of business. Lille did pull a late goal back and, made Chelsea kind of earn it for the last 10 minutes. But, nonetheless, Chelsea advanced, and, the draw was just this weekend. So it looks like now Chelsea will play Bayern Munich in the round of 16. So, definitely an interesting draw. That'll pit Christian up against Bayern Munich, which is basically, Borussia Dortmund's biggest rivals, and a team that, he's played well against in the past. So, just another kind of interesting storyline. We'll have to see how he plays again. But, I think from Christian's point of view, it's not a bad matchup. Obviously, Bayern this year have Robert Lewandowski, who's playing out of his mind. And, Bayern look very good. I wouldn't say they look as good as they've had in the past. They do have some injury concerns, and at the moment they seem to have kind of a crisis at center back. So, maybe that'll be the case in February, and Chelsea can kind of take advantage of that with Christian. But, we'll have to see. That's a long way off. But, nonetheless, I think it's not a bad draw. There was obviously some teams that, weren't as good that Chelsea could have gotten potentially. But what hurt Chelsea was they actually finished second in their group. So they were pretty much going to be, matched up with a heavy hitter no matter what. So, we'll have to see what happens in this game. Another interesting storyline is it also pits, America's superstar up against Canada's superstar in Alphonso Davies. So, kind of a cool little CONCACAF storyline too in this Champions League tie. But so job well done. Chelsea looked real good in the group stage of the Champions League. Didn't really struggle in many games, and looked good. So that was good. But what was not so good for Chelsea, and it hasn't been good for the past 2 to 3 weeks, is their performances in the Premier League. So this past weekend, Christian Pulisic started yet again for Chelsea and played only 65 minutes, I believe, and that was in their 1-0 loss to Bournemouth. So, Chelsea going into this game, it looked like kind of took a more casual approach. I wouldn't say it was a, fully casual approach, but it was definitely, Frank Lampard rested Mateo Kovacic, who seems to be, Chelsea's best player as of, late, and has really played well for them recently. So that was kind of surprising going into the game. But Bournemouth is a team right now that was struggling with injuries. Really were not full strength, and it kind of seemed like Chelsea took them a little lightly going into this game, and it ended up really hurting them. They just really didn't look cohesive on the day. Christian himself really struggled to get involved in the game. And I think, part of that was Bournemouth was trying to game plan him out of this game and, take away the threat he poses on that left wing. And, they did a good job of it. You got to give them props. But, what also really hurt Chelsea on the day was just the play from their left back, Emerson. It looked like he was not super in tune with, the ideas of Christian Pulisic. And, Emerson's a left back that really likes to get forward and overlap. And at times, it just seemed like him and Christian were kind of taking up the same positions, making similar runs and just kind of crowding that wing area where it seems like Christian, plays a little bit better with a left back who doesn't come up so far up the pitch and kind of allows him to create from that wing. So, that was something that was a little disappointing. Not, like I said, not a good day from Christian and Chelsea. I believe Christian only attempted one dribble on the day, as opposed to the 11 he attempted against Lille, and is kind of a mainstay in his game. So, definitely was struggling to really create on the ball. And I believe he also only had 32 touches in this game. So, not the amount that you want to see, one of your key playmakers having. You definitely want to see them get, close to 50, 60, on a good day, maybe 75 touches in a game and, influence the game and kind of have the game in his hands. So, unfortunately that didn't happen in this game, and Chelsea lost on a VAR approved goal. It was a very clever goal from Bournemouth, and it was definitely a goal. So it wasn't something that they really got burned on. It was just a game where they kind of tried to hold on, and unfortunately, Bournemouth capitalized on their poor play on the day. So this is slightly concerning too, because it's now 2 weeks in a row that Chelsea have really struggled in the Premier League and have really just not looked themselves from what we've seen earlier in the year. And, Christian Pulisic is a player that hasn't looked at himself in either of these past two games. They lost last week to Everton. So, not really sure what it is. Maybe it's just their mentality. They were trying to prioritize the Champions League, and, some of the players weren't on the same page for these last two games, and they were a little bit tired. Chelsea have played a lot of games over the past month. So, we'll see what it is. I think Christian has shown still this year that he's, one of Chelsea's biggest playmakers. So I think he's got, a little bit of credit, so to speak, not only with Frank Lampard, but with some of his other teammates. And I do think he'll be in the starting lineup again this week for Chelsea. I believe they have a midweek game as well as a game on the weekend. So, the games don't really stop for Chelsea. So let's hope Christian, continues to start for them and can kind of, turn it back on and get back on the horse. Because I don't think it's really a loss of confidence. I just think, what these teams have done the past 2 weeks have kind of just messed up Chelsea's game plan, and it's really kind of thrown not so much Christian off, but it's just kind of thrown their tactics off, and it's kind of now going to force them to adapt, and we'll see what happens. So yeah. Also, the one final thing we want to bring up about Christian too is that he won the 2019 U.S. Male Player of the Year award. So definitely well deserved. Christian played a big role for the U.S. this summer at the Gold Cup. Helped them to the final where they ended up losing to Mexico. But also made the big move to Chelsea for $73 million. The biggest transfer in U.S. men's national team history by far. So, definitely a kudos there. And, definitely very deserving of this award. The only other player that may have earned a shout was Jordan Morris, who won MLS Cup and scored a good amount of goals for the USMNT this year. I believe he might have scored even more goals than Christian, and started a lot of games, was a big part of the USMNT in 2019. But I think Christian, his just what he brings to the pitch, he's clearly a better player than Jordan Morris, so I think that should definitely weigh in the decision. And just the big move to Chelsea, scoring a hat trick this past fall, or earlier this fall. My vote would have been towards Christian. So definitely well deserved, and I think there'll be more to come in his future. So definitely good to see that. But with that, we're going to move over to Gio Reyna over in Germany and talk a little bit about some of his youth team performances. So midweek, he played in a UEFA Youth League game, and that was for BBB's U19s. And they ended up winning this game 5-1 over Slavia Prague's U19s. So in this game, Gio had 2 goals and 2 assists. So, definitely a big game for him. And one that's, I thought was kind of a statement game for Dortmund. It's not all that often you have a hand in 4 goals in a game. So, definitely a sign of a special player, and one that is in good form at the moment and really playing confidently. And, I thought this, might be the game that could propel him into, his debut for Dortmund. But unfortunately, over the weekend, he wasn't in the 18 after being in the 18 last weekend. So a little disappointing. Obviously, he's still way ahead of the curve. So we can kind of be a little patient with him and patient with Dortmund, and, waited out a little longer. But I definitely thought that game midweek was kind of his way to sign off to the U19, maybe not Bundesliga, but the U19 level, there in the youth league. So unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. So with that being said, he played in the U19 Bundesliga game this past weekend, and what do you know? Scored a goal. So that was in BVB U19's 6-1 win. And this goal came off of a penalty. So, showing that he can, do it in more ways than one, and, convert the penalties there. So, that's, I believe, his 4th goal. And now he has 2 assists in his last 4 games. So, like I said, good form for Gio Reyna. Really proving that, he's kind of past this U19 level. It's basically the same type of thing that Christian Pulisic did when he broke through at Dortmund. He really, that season he broke through, I believe it was 2015, 2016. He really showed in that fall of 2015 that he was above the U19 level. I believe he scored like 6 goals and had, 3 or 4 assists in that fall. And that catapulted him into the winter break training, which I think Gio Reyna should definitely be a part of. It sounds like he's been training a lot with the first team already, and, took part in that USA tour over the summer, and, spent, I believe, another training session over the summer too with Dortmund's first team. So I definitely think he's going to take that same path that Christian took. And, Christian made his debut in February in the DFB Pokal, right after that training or that winter break period. So, like I said, Gio Reyna is ahead of the curve. Dortmund have 2 more games this week. They play RB Leipzig, I believe, tomorrow. And then who else do they play? They play Hoffenheim, I want to say, over the weekend. So, Gio could make his debut there, but I think it's more realistic that, he trains with the first team over that winter break, and then, breaks into the Dortmund first team, hopefully in February, maybe even late January, depending on what Dortmund's schedule is like. So, I think Gio's really done a good job in this first part of the season with Dortmund, just, proving himself in Germany, showing that he can adapt to the playing style over there. and that he can kind of arise to any opportunity that he's been given. So that's kind of all you need to do to prove you deserve another opportunity at a higher level. So I think Gio's done a good job, and it won't be long until we start talking about him potentially scoring for Dortmund's first team, and then hopefully making his debut for the USMNT. So here's to 2020. So now moving back over to England for the final player we'll discuss today, and that would be Owen Otasowie. So Owen was another player this weekend, or I guess was the only player this weekend who made his first team debut, and that was in a 4-0 win over Besiktas in the Europa League. So before the weekend, and it's good to see. He came on for the final 17 minutes of this game. Got on the ball a little bit, looked pretty tidy in possession. Went into some challenges with good physicality. He's a big player. I believe he's like 6'1" or 6'2", very lanky and really plays quick. That was the one thing I kind of took away from his cameo, is that he really likes to challenge himself, play at a quick pace, and I think that's good to see. He's still only 18 years old, so definitely has a lot to learn, and is still growing probably, and we'll have to fill out a little bit his frame. But it was nothing too much to really take from this cameo, but it was a 4-0 game when he came on, so the game was kind of done and dusted, but didn't really put a foot wrong. Took care of possession, like I said, made some tackles and won the ball back. So just got his feet wet a little bit, and now this means maybe we'll see him play in the Premier League. Who knows? The one thing that was kind of interesting in this game was that he he was put on in the center defensive mid position, not center back, which we've seen him play for the US U18s and for some of the U20 camps. I believe he's been called up to. He's usually been always called up as a center back. So I don't know if Wolverhampton see him as a center defensive mid, or it was just, that's where they could get him playing time in this game and kind of just, get his feet wet and see what he can do. So that might be something to monitor, and maybe we'll, more will come to light with that if he gets called up again for us. And, maybe we take a look at him as a center defensive mid. But, for the time being, we're just excited to see Owen make his Wolves debut and Europa League debut. So very, very impressive. The other cool thing this week that kind of came out was he was linked to a transfer to either PSG, Real Madrid, or I believe there was one other club, might have been Arsenal. So definitely, some teams are, taking stock of them and liking what they see. So that's always good. I think, it's never a bad thing to have, big clubs like that, whether the transfers or the rumors, are legit or not. I think it's always good to see, our players' names get in the press and, just generate some more publicity. So I'm all about that. Would I like to see him transferred to one of those teams? I'm not exactly sure. If he can somehow break into this first team at Wolves and get consistent minutes, then I think that's, the best thing for him. But if this is kind of just, getting his feet wet, and then once some players get back from injury, they kind of demote him back to the U23s, then, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to see him go to another club like PSG or Real Madrid and kind of get some training in a world-class academy like that. So, we'll see. Time will tell. Still only 18, like I said. So, has his whole future ahead of him. And, so that's all for this part of our episode. Now let's head over to Quick Kicks. And now it's that time of the show again. It's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
So to start Quick Kicks today, we have Sergino Dest, And Serginho played the second half of Ajax's unfortunate 1-0 loss to Valencia in the Champions League midweek. So with this loss, unfortunately, Ajax was demoted down to the Europa League. And, it might mean that they have a good chance now of winning that European trophy. But definitely disappointing for a team that went to the final in the Champions League last year. So kind of unfortunate to see for Serginho. But nonetheless, he did win a very important award this week, and that was he was voted the 2019 U.S. Young Male Player of the Year award. So congrats to Serginho, very well deserved. Making his debut for Ajax and making his Champions League debut this week, or not this week, excuse me, but this year was very impressive. Had a good U20 World Cup, and it all culminated in this award. So congrats to him, and we'll keep an eye out for what he has in the future. So yeah. Now heading over to France, we want to let you guys know that Nick Gioacchini subbed on and played the final 36 minutes for Caen, and that was in their 2-1 loss to Rodez. So an unfortunate loss for Caen. Now going over to Germany, we want to let you guys know that Chris Richards started and played all 90 minutes at right back, and that was for Bayern 2 in their 3-1 loss. Now heading over to Spain, we want to let you guys know that Konrad de la Fuente finally got his first Barca B start. So that was pretty big in my opinion. Definitely something we've been kind of waiting for Konrad to take that next step this year. And it looks like he was, given that start, and he played 70 minutes in that game. Barca B ended up winning 3-1 as well. So job well done, and hopefully we see him stay with Barca B. That's the next step for Konrad. We got to see that step taken this year, in my opinion, to see him really, get a chance to progress and hopefully, either get a shot with the first team or go on loan to another La Liga club in the near future. So very good to see. Now, moving over to the Netherlands, we want to let you guys know that Richy Ledezma started and played all 90 minutes for Young PSV, and that was in their 1-0 loss over the weekend. Now going over to Denmark, we want to let you guys know that Christian Cappis played all 90 minutes in Hobro's 1-1 draw with Brøndby. So a good draw for them. Hobro is kind of down the table right now, so a point against one of the Denmark Giants, or I guess you'd say Danish Giants, is a good point. Now going to Germany, we want to say that Taylor Booth started and played 66 minutes and also picked up 2 assists. So very impressive. And that was in Bayern U19's 3-0 win over Tottenham Hotspur's U19s in the UEFA Youth League. So, good performance from Taylor. Both came off of set pieces. So, kind of cool that he's taking set pieces for a Bayern youth team. And, he's gotten consistent game time this year for that team, and should be a big part of the US U20 cycle that's coming up in 2020. So good to see. Now heading over to England, we want to let you guys know that Matt Miazga started and played all 90 minutes, and that was in a 1-1 draw with Barnsley for Reading. Staying in England, Antonee Robinson started and played 90 minutes midweek in a 1-1 draw with championship leaders West Brom, so a good point for them. And then over the weekend, he started and played all 90 yet again for Wigan, and that was in a 1-1 draw with Huddersfield. So, continuing to get minutes and picking up points. Now we want to go over to Duane Holmes, and Duane Holmes started and played 90 minutes midweek, and that was in Derby's 1-1 draw with Sheffield Wednesday. And then over the weekend, unfortunately, he started and played 88 minutes, but that was in a 1-0 loss to Millwall. So, Duane Holmes continuing to get minutes at Derby, and should have more time with the USMNT in 2020. Please. And moving over to the Netherlands, we want to also let you guys know that Haji Wright started and played 90 minutes for VVV Venlo, and that was in their 2-1 loss to PEC Zwolle. And finally, we want to let you guys also know that Leonardo Sepulveda scored a goal for Salamanca B in their 3-1 win over in Spain. So definitely a player to keep your eye on. There's been reported interest from Real Madrid in him. So, a Mexican-American player or I should say American-Mexican player who's 18 years old, I believe, and plays center back. So exciting stuff there. And that's it for our episode today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below. And also check out our Twitter and Instagram. We always try to put out content and let you guys know of all of our great player performances that happen abroad, and any transfers or rumors that go on. We try to let you guys know as well. So definitely follow us there. And I think just want to give you guys a quick update that this might be our last show for 2019. With Christmas coming up next week, it's going to be a little tough for us to take time to edit with travel and work plans as well. So unfortunately, it sounds like this might be our last one for 2019. But stay tuned. Like I said, to our social media, we'll try to communicate anything that goes on at the for our Yaz over the break. And be ready for 2019. We'll be back better than ever. I know Pat and Maya's work schedule might be a little hectic here to start 2020. So just kind of bear with us. We're trying to stay dedicated to you guys and get as many videos out as quick as we can. So but with that being said, I think there's one thing to finish up 2019 with, and that would be one day we will win the World Cup.